everyone, Andrea from And Beyond and andbeyondimprov.com, here to talk with you a little bit about the ever-intimidating subject of confrontation at work. This is something that gets people tripped up a lot, and it feels very scary to put yourself out there and figure out how to advocate for yourself, stand up for what you believe in, and stick up for yourself when you're in a professional environment. So I'm going to be telling you a little bit about my tips for handling this type of situation, and as always, we'll be using the lens of improv for guidance. Step 1 is to remember that your scene partner is a creative genius. Now, it's extremely normal. Whenever I do trainings about improv and confrontation with live groups, it's extremely normal for about 17 hands to shoot up as soon as I say those words. Your scene partner is always a creative genius. Because we don't always feel like our scene partner is behaving like a creative genius. Sometimes our scene partner is behaving in a way that's not professional or not helpful or completely counterproductive to accomplishing the task at hand. So the thing is that even if that's true, it's important to remember that your scene partner is more than how they're doing this one thing. Improv is most successful when we remember to honor our scene partner as the valuable collaborator that they are, or at least that they could be once we move past whatever the situation at hand is. Remember to walk into that conversation with curiosity instead of judgment. Look for what your scene partner might be experiencing and might be perceiving and try to see it from their point of view. I know it's difficult, but the more you can force yourself to remember, this person can do valuable work with me, the easier time you'll have building something that's productive. Because at the end of the day, the goal of our confrontation, the goal of sticking up for ourselves is to build something productive, not just to inform the other person that you're angry. Step 2 is to remember that your contribution is more welcome than you realize. This is especially important for newer improvisers or people that are newer to a group. It's easy to wait for an invitation to speak up. And the longer you wait, the more you start telling yourself a story that people don't want to hear what you have to say or people don't care what you have to say. The onus is on each of us to make sure we're getting out there and saying our thing and adding our piece. It's easy to start leaning into a victim mindset that is counterproductive to ultimately achieving what we want to achieve. You might come in way more aggressive or way more angry than what is productive if you've been telling yourself that these people don't want to hear what you want to say. So reminding yourself that your contribution is more welcome than you realize, you just may surprise yourself how often when you simply speak up and say your point of view or say what it is that you need, that you're immediately met with people who are glad to hear what you have to say. So forgiveness goes a long way. Forgive yourself for not getting in there sooner if that's the situation. Forgive other people for being loud and for not extending an invitation if that's what you feel like you needed. But always remember that part of part of building an improvised scene, whether it's finishing a project or handling a confrontation, is both people being willing to add their information readily. Step 3 is offer a brick that's receivable to your scene partner. So you may have heard this improv adage. I use it a bunch of different times in my work with clients. Bring a brick, not a cathedral. When it comes to workplace confrontation, what that means is bring your one thing. Don't bury your scene partner with this whole narrative you've been telling yourself about what's going on. This plays into the curiosity over judgment piece. So you're going to bring one thing and listen, and then your scene partner will bring something, and then you bring something, they bring something, you bring something, and you build whatever it's going to be together. That is so crucial when it comes to confrontation, because anytime tensions are running high, there's a lot we want to say, and it would be really easy to bury our scene partner, just empty a wheelbarrow full of bricks right on top of them, and that's, again, not how we build something productive. So we want to bring one brick at a time, but then the whole key for confrontation is bring a brick that's receivable. So a receivable brick in the context of confrontation is equal parts honesty, clarity, and kindness. I hope you'll take a minute to write that down, because I have coached lots and lots of people on how to handle these situations, and this method does not fail. Honesty, clarity, and kindness. That's the recipe for self-advocating in a way that is most productive. Step 4 is eye contact. Eye contact is absolutely crucial in improv for building what we like to call group mind, but could also be understood in professional contexts as synergy or group cohesion. Now, hopefully it won't be news to you that the margin for error increases dramatically when we lose tone and nonverbal communication. And when we lose that because we're trying to handle delicate conversations through text or email or Slack or whatever your inter-office communication is, we are dramatically increasing the possibility that we'll be misunderstood and that we might accidentally throw gas on the fire instead of de-escalating a situation. This is why I highly recommend 90% of the time that confrontation happen face-to-face. Yes, it's uncomfortable, but this is the reason why we get centered first and why we offer what we need to say with honesty, clarity, kindness, and remind ourselves that our scene partner can be trusted. They are a creative genius. Every situation is different, but the model I recommend is that first you send a very brief email with honesty, clarity, and kindness asking for FaceTime. All that you really need is to be able to simply say something along the lines of, I want to circle back to what happened or what was said or whatever. The further away I get from it, the less it sits with me. And I just want to address it so that it doesn't balloon into anything it doesn't need to be. That is so simple. Something like that is what I would say in an email. And that you're best able to actually deliver on that promise that you're putting forth in the email when it's one-on-one and you're not in presentation mode. I also highly recommend that wherever this meeting happened, it not be in your office, it not be in their office, it not be in a place where other coworkers could walk by or be within hearing distance. Go to a place where you're not likely to get distracted and neither of you are likely to start saying things because you're aware that other people are listening. That is a very easy psychological shift to make in the middle of a conversation, and frankly, it just doesn't serve the purposes of that conversation. Lastly, give yourself room to notice when the scene is over. This is a crucial skill in improv, to notice when it's time to edit the scene. It doesn't mean that we're done with these characters forever. It doesn't mean that we can't revisit these topics and themes later in the show. In improv, nothing is forgotten. We can always come back to it later, but you're serving the audience and your scene partner and your ultimate purposes best by editing when the scene is over. What I like to do is make sure at the end, send a thank you note. It is vulnerable to be the one putting yourself out there and saying how you feel, but it's vulnerable to be willing to listen and be willing to receive that kind of feedback. So we want to thank our scene partner for listening, for hearing us out, for sitting in that moment of uncomfortable conversation to hear what we have to say, and we want to say thank you for that. Okay, so now you know the improv skills that make a huge difference when it comes to self-advocacy and sticking up for yourself at work. But it's hard to stick to a system that you're just learning, and that's the reason why I created the Improv Guide for Workplace Self-Advocacy. And you can actually get that guide for free by clicking on the link below this video. So how do you handle self-advocacy at work? I'm sure that you've had to handle this a time or two in the past. Leave your thoughts and your comments below, and make sure you grab the Improv Guide for Workplace Self-Advocacy. It's our free gift to you. Go ahead and click the link below to get a copy of that. And if you're enjoying this video, if this is meaningful to you, hit the like button so I know to make more content like this. Make sure you subscribe to our channel and then click the bell so you get a notification every time we update with a new video. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!